Today's topic of discussion is something regarding trusts. The most famous one what we see here and there, at least at the books, is called as a perfect one, perfect truss. But today we will be seeing whether it is really a perfect one. What I understand or what a common person understands out of perfect means nothing beyond that. 100 out of 100 marks. Nothing else will be expected. Perhaps this is not true. What we expect from a perfect truss. Basically, we are going to go back to what other kind of trusses are available here as per their names. Anyway, I have taken here a simple looking truss where A, B, C, D, E are the joints, A, B, B, C, C, D, D, E are the members, A and D are the supports. There is a load available at the point A, and now we can see a truss with some combinations all over here. Then, suppose I count down the number of members, count down the number of joints, then I will be finding that the number of joints are always lesser than the number of members. Very simple thing. And then we have some relationships. For example, suppose M is the number of members and J is the number of joints. And suppose this relationship M equal to 2 into J minus 3 is followed by the combination. Then we call such a truss as a perfect truss. Why the name perfect has been given? It is a simple thing. This truss, when having any load here and there, or such a kind of a truss where this relationship will be getting satisfied, when there will be some load, the truss will not have any collapsing action. That is a guarantee given. The truss may undergo some deflection here and there, but no collapsing action. And because the collapsing action is completely prevented here, the truss is called as the perfect truss. Simple. But sometimes I see in the truss, the relationship doesn't get followed. The relationship seen will be something different. For example, M, the number of members I count, and I find the number of members are less than 2J minus 3, less than required for the perfection. Perhaps here the joints are 5. Number of members required as per this condition is 7, but our members are not 7, our members are, let us say, 6. Then the truss looks like this. Number of members lesser than stipulated. Such a truss is called as a deficient truss. Deficient truss. Something is short, something is lagging. What is lagging is the geometrical stability. Suppose a load comes over here and suppose all the joints are pin joints. Anybody can understand here. Those inclined members, which are they? One is BE from one side, one is CE from other side. They are having some angle, but the moment the load comes into picture, angle will be collapsing. Perhaps this D point will be pushed to the left hand side, the truss will be completely losing the geometry. This is the idea behind a deficient truss. But we have one more truss. One more relationship, and the relationship says that now the number of members are more than the stipulated ones, more than 2J minus 3. More than 2J minus 3. Such a truss will be called as a redundant truss. Redundant means something extra. What will be extra in the truss will be the number of members. And when the numbers of members are more than what we are requiring, it will be called the redundant truss. For example, let me come back over here. Now if I put a member here BC, again the truss becomes a perfect one. Now without altering the number of joints, I am adding some members. For example, I add a member directly from A to C. Joint remains 100%, number of joints. There are still 5. One more member also I will add. Now it will be starting from B and going towards D. Now that member will look like this. The places where we are seeing two members crossing are the places of overlapping. No joint is there. Overlapping. Now the joints are 5. Now the members are 9. Such a truss will be called as a redundant truss. Redundant truss will be carrying some extra members. And when extra members come into picture, naturally cost increases. Naturally. And perhaps if the truss is quite large one, then I think the number of members getting added to suit this condition will be further larger, further cost will be increasing. Now the question, which of them are preferred to be used at the profession? One will definitely answer, this is of no use. Nobody will be even imagining this trust to be solved or put up in the operation. One will be tempted by this word, perfect. And one will be saying that, okay, in the professional field I will be finding perfect trusts. Perhaps one will be finding a drawback with the third kind. Drawback is that number of members are extra. Suppose every member is costing me, let us say, 10,000 rupees, and I suppose I am installing 7 extra members in a given trust. Directly the cost goes up by 70,000 rupees. Like this. Then what benefit do I get? Whereas one will claim that the load per member gets reduced. But I think that is not the aim. When we design the trust of this kind, for a kind of a load, every member has been given and assigned a cross section and certified, it is safe one. Then what is the point afterwards in reducing the load per member? Doesn't carry any sense once the design is already complete. So that cannot be the answer for going for redundant trusts. But still we find, when we see here and there in the practice, we never see a perfect trust in practice. We always see redundant trust in the practice, though there is a limitation of the costing. These are unnecessarily costlier. I require, let us say, some n number of members. My members are extra by 5, 6, 7, 8, and then it is going to be costly. But still, people prefer to install these kind of a trusts rather than the perfect ones. Therefore, the question comes into picture: this perfect trust, is it really a perfect one? Really a perfect one? That is the question. And then, what is the reason why what for we go for redundant trust? What is the reason we accept, yes, let the cost go up by 1 or 2 lakhs rupees? No problem, we will be installing this one. This is the question. Now, perhaps this question is not solved at the academic level. At the academic level, whatever trusts we have solved here and there at the books are necessarily of this kind. First one, never of the second kind, and never of the third kind. Never. We have solved only perfect trusts at academic level. We believe that in the profession also we are going to be having only perfect trusts, but that is never the truth. Now we will come to the point. What is the advantage this trust offers? Redundant trust. Okay, for that let us again go back to our perfect trust and try to understand some limitation of this trust. Limitation of this trust. And if I understand the limitation, whereas I will not call this trust as a perfect trust. Though academics is calling the trust the perfect trust. Imagine such a trust. Or imagine a trust little bigger than that. Where number of members are extra, number of members are extra. But still this condition gets followed. Let us say look like a bridge, railway bridge. We can see a huge number of joints and members are there here and there. And then let us lay down a condition that a trust there is a perfect one. Okay, installed, put into operation, maybe days go, maybe months pass, and then one fine morning, some member like this develops a fault. It develops a fault. Whereas the member is prone for failure immediately. Moment the member is prone for failure or any member fails, the trust automatically goes to this kind, deficient. And a deficient trust is never reliable from the geometry point of view, stability point of view. It can collapse any moment. Then disasters can happen in that condition. And nobody is given a warning that tomorrow this member is likely to develop a fault. Nothing like this. Faults can come anytime. It means that suppose we are having members just as required, suppose tomorrow something goes wrong, the trust will be undergoing a particular disastrous condition. Perhaps it will be creating not many kind of disasters also. So what we do? To save those things, we provide 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 extra members here and there. So that suppose a fault is getting developed with any member, then still available members are more than sufficient. Suppose I am having, let us say, 7 extra members in some large trust, and a fault is getting developed in one member. Okay, I don't mind. I notice the fault. I send my repair team over there. They remove the member and still the truss, is in working condition. No rail traffic will be stopping. Nobody will be working about the disastrous conditions here and there. So sometimes repairs, sometimes servicing. Even everything is good. And I send my team for servicing or routine maintenance. Sometimes servicing, routine maintenance stop the operation on that concerned member. Sometimes I got to report, take the member to the laboratory and test something and again put it back. These are the expected things when in the working condition. But due to any reason, suppose some member is now lesser and the original truss is perfect one, then the operations are to be called off. Nothing more than that. But suppose our truss is of this kind, maybe 70, 80,000, 1 lakh, 1.5 lakhs, costing more, still nothing stops. So what advantage finally we see for the redundant truss is number one, it allows serviceability. Second, it allows repairability. And number three, it allows maintainability. And for which, yes, you are prepared to pay for extra cost. No problem. If this is the guarantee. That is the reason. I was coming to the point. The truss which is preferred to be installed will be always redundant one. And a truss called like this is never the choice of the designer, is never the choice of the user. Now, perhaps I will be saying a perfect truss is carrying only name as perfect one. But if a behavior comes into picture, sorry, it is not a perfect. It is not a perfect one. Such things. When we discuss at CAD/CAM Guru with our students are coming with a remark. Oh, wonderful. Is it really? We are not knowing this. Thank you.